Hello there, my dear internet friends, and welcome to Lost Bits. This is a companion video to an episode of the main series I run on my channel called Lost Realms, specifically Episode 3, Drowned Land of the Low Countries. That video covers briefly the history of St. Lucia's flood, one of the most deadly floods in human history, and one that had a huge impact on the history of Europe. So if you haven't seen that video yet, then this one might not make a lot of sense. So please go check it out here first if you haven't watched it yet, and then come back. This video was a lot of fun to make, but it was also really in-depth for me research-wise. I keep saying this lately, but I definitely feel like this is an area that I'm going to come back to because there is such a rich and at times tragic history of natural disasters here, but also of people learning from them. And the resiliency of the people of the Netherlands throughout history is truly inspiring, and it was great to read and learn about in the process of making that episode. And while it ended up a little bit on the shorter side, that was more because A, I plan to come back there, and B, to be honest, a lot of the sources from that time are either lost to us, like the contemporary actual sources from the time, or they're not available to me in English. But like I said, this is a topic that fascinates me, and I'm working slowly on overcoming some of those research hurdles, so keep an eye out in the future for more on this topic. But for now, let's dive into some really fascinating research that I uncovered while making that episode. Oh my goodness, the Franks. So I mentioned in the episode that the ancient Romans, for quite a few hundred years, controlled parts of what we would consider today to be the Netherlands. And after the Romans fell, there were different Germanic tribes that came in. And I mentioned the Frisians, but this one was actually just an oversight on my part. I didn't mention the Franks at all, which is absolutely ridiculous because they had a huge impact on the history of the people here. They themselves originally emerged, like the Frisians, as a Germanic tribe from the eastern banks of the lower Rhine River, and they had a fascinating culture. I'll put in today's links. As always, there will be links in the top comment below. If you're new here, take a look for them. I'll put down in there an article from the World History Encyclopedia about the Franks in general. It's really fascinating stuff. And like I said, if we do come back here, I'll definitely make a point to talk about them more. Another people group with an extremely interesting history in the Low Countries is the Vikings. I mentioned in the episode how the Vikings would raid this area periodically. And to be honest, a lot of the Frisian and Frankish settlements in the area were basically defenseless to this. But it was not all raiding and pillaging, and the Viking culture itself would also have a lasting impact on the Netherlands. I'm including a link in the sources as well to a museum website from the Netherlands that has a bunch of information about the Viking impact on their people. It's a really fun read. We often think of geography as this really stable thing, and I suppose in terms of the average human lifespan, it is. But looking at the history of Europe, we can see just how much the geography there has changed over time. And one of the most obvious and fascinating ones is Doggerland. As you can see from these pictures here, at one point there was no North Sea, not as we know it now. Instead, there was this other huge expanse of land that people did live in. There's a wealth of information available about this online. And I'll put a couple links, one to an encyclopedia entry and another to a National Geographic article on the topic. It's all incredibly fascinating. Okay, and that just about covers it. Thank you so much for joining me for the story of the drowned land of the Low Countries and for this Lost Bits episode. As always, if you have any suggestions for an upcoming episode or just anything you want to chat about, please let me know down in the comments, or you can find me on Instagram and Reddit. I'll put my links in the description box. I would love to hear from you, and I really hope you enjoyed our quick dive into history. Okay, I have to share with you guys. The next main episode coming out is one I've been working on really hard for a long, long time. It's about an occupation, not necessarily a place or people like I would normally cover here, but it's an important occupation and one that still has a lot of parallels in the modern day, because we're going to be visiting ancient Assyria, and more specifically, we're going to be visiting some ghost hunters. We're going to be looking at how the average ancient Mesopotamian person would have viewed ghosts and spirits in the afterlife. We're going to explore a little bit about how the supernatural was viewed in general in the ancient world. And we're going to do a deep dive into an actual ancient Mesopotamian exorcism ritual meant to banish an evil ghost. I'm so, so excited about it. Like I said, I've been working on it for a while. When it's ready, I'll put a link here somewhere and keep an eye out for it. If you haven't already and you enjoy all this, then please consider subscribing too so you don't miss it. But either way, thank you so much for being here again. Be safe, be happy, go with all my love, and goodbye.